like to call to order the July 17th, 2023 meeting of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission. And first item, let's all stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll have a roll call. Commissioner Girding.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
And we also have present with us Andrew Gitzleff, and who is the director for our community development, and also Hannah Dunn, who is the new community development specialist. And Hannah, maybe you'd like to say a few words, introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Hannah Dunn. I just started about a month and a half ago. I graduated from the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School of Public Affairs with a Master in Environmental Policy. That was about a year ago. And it took me a year to find the right fit, and now I'm here at the City of Oakdale, and I'm excited to be here tonight, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Great. Well, welcome. So the first item on our agenda is approval of our meeting minutes, and we have meeting minutes from March 20th meeting and also our May 15th meeting this year. Are there any changes required to the meeting minutes? And let's start with the March 20th. Any changes that would like to be made? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the March 20th meeting minutes as written.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the March 20th, 2023 meeting minutes of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission, say aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved for March 20th, and now the May 15th meeting minutes. Do I have any changes? Hearing none, I would look for approval of the May 15th, 2023 meeting minutes of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the May 15th, 2023 meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved for our May 15th meeting. All right, so we'll start our meeting tonight, the review of our old business. And with that is a bicycle and pedestrian progress update. And there was a memo from Max Loesch on this in our packet. And at our last meeting, we did get a chance to talk with Max about this. And there are a number of items that we talked about in that meeting. The bike and pedestrian plan is moving along nicely, and we will be getting a final review before it's all done. But Hannah, would you like to provide us with the latest update on this?
Yes. Community Development Specialist Max has been working hard to bring this plan across the finish line. The memo provided in the packet describes the actions completed by the project team. And since the Environmental Management Commission's last meeting in May, the first draft of the plan text was completed and reviewed by staff from various departments, including community development, engineering, public works, fire, and police. The next step in the process is to provide the EMC and City Council with the draft plan text and to allow commissioners and City Council members to provide feedback and input. The draft text is anticipated to be presented to City Council on July 25th and also shared with EMC members at that time.
Great. I'm happy to see the progress continuing on this, and look forward to seeing the draft probably next month. So that'll be a key point, because then it will also be going to the City Council for formal adoption after that. So since we're the lead commission on this, we'll have that chance to review that draft and provide our comments next month. So thank you for the update on that. And I think the items that we had discussed, in our last meeting have been addressed here, and I think we'll see what the first draft holds for us. Any comments?
No.
All right. The next item for old business is the Washington County Recycling Grant update. And as you know, we have had a recycling grant for many years here from Washington County. And once again, we have received a grant, and we look forward to doing some great things to advance recycling in Oakdale as part of that grant. One of the items is to decrease reliance on single-use plastics. And maybe you want to talk about, Hannah, if you would jump in and talk about, we have a couple of potential graphics that the city staff has come up with.
Mm-hmm. So one of the projects, as you know, is to create reusable bags that we can give away at community events such as the farmers market. And, city staff have been progressing towards making those bags a reality. And one of the big steps in doing so is deciding on the bag graphics. In the packet, you'll find two different designs. They both utilize the same recycling logo, but have two different slogans. These are just two options that we've come up with and can continue to brainstorm and explore other slogans if the commission would like us to do that. In terms of the bag colors, we haven't really begun to decide or explore that. That really depends on what vendor we go with in the specific bag. But Oakdale's colors will be utilized, whether that's with the font or the bag color. So is there any initial feedback from the commission on the logo, the slogan, the text at the bottom, the overall graphic layout?
Is that the universal sign for recycling?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, personally, I like the way plastic-free is the way to be sounds. It's a little more melodious.
Mm-hmm.
The ditch plastic, switch to reusable sounds a little forceful.
I'd offer something as a hybrid, like ditch and switch.
Anyway, overall, I think it looks really good.
What would what would the best method be for us to communicate any other feedback on this?
By email.
Email's fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want it by a certain time?
Probably by the end of, probably by July 28th, so that we can, so that's about 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I tend to like the first one better, but can think about this a little more, give some comments back. And that it's, the first one's more, I think, a positive message rather than a negative on ditching plastics, but yeah.
What are the bags going to be made of?
They're not going to be canvas, because that's the,
But they're not going to be plastic.
no, they're not going to be plastic. Canvas is more expensive, so
Yeah.
looking at the vendor quotes, I can't remember the material type, but it won't be canvas and it won't be plastic.
And then in terms of the grant language, I can't quite recall. Is there an amount that we committed to distributing in terms of data or metrics or anything?
No, nope, we have not committed to a certain number of bags to go out, so we'll determine a price point and figure out a good number of bags to get, because I assume they'll be quite popular when we bring them to the farmer's market, so we don't want to sell out to, you know, we're not selling them, but, you know, don't want them to go too quickly.
All right, well, if we have any further comments, I think the mock-up of one, I like the layout, looks nice, and we can maybe think a little more about the slogan we want on there. But I think that looks good. All right, well, our next item on the agenda is the EMC recruitment. So our commission has been operating with just 4 people for the year so far, and now with the resignation or non-renewing their term on the commission, we're down to 3 people. And it's really difficult to conduct business and advance these goals with just 3 people on the commission. And so we need to look at new ways to possibly, to get a full commission. Full commission is 7. We have 7 seats on our commission, and 4 of them are currently vacant. And so this opportunity for the commission and city staff to talk about different opportunities we would have for getting the word out to people and get some strategy going on how we can get this commission up to a full membership. So I'll let you run through this. I think this is really good, and looking at different methods and also looking at what other cities have as far as commissions as well.
Yes, so because of decline in membership appointment on the EMC and other city advisory committees, city staff felt it important to look into recruitment strategies, best practices, and potential solutions, and present this information at the EMC meeting. As described in the memo, past strategies for recruitment have included social media, mailers, video promotion, event tabling, and electronic sign advertising. These strategies fall under what is known as a broad-based recruitment strategy, so getting the message out to as many people as possible. And in the memo, I mentioned other strategies for recruitment, including a targeted strategy where you seek out individuals with specific skills and try to recruit them to the commission, or there's what was called a concentric circle recruitment strategy, which is leveraging the networks that the commission members and city council members have and spreading the word about EMC vacant positions. And in the memo, there's also the summary table of what other cities and commissions are doing so that we can better understand how Oakdale compares and if there's potential changes that we could consider in maybe making the EMC more attractive to potential members. So information regarding, whether the commission is made up of only residents or residents and non-residents, the number of members, the meeting frequency, meeting location, whether the meetings are televised or streamed. These were all listed in the table. So considering all this information, staff have identified ideas for your consideration and input. So we'd like to gather feedback regarding those. Ideas to increase member participation and recruitment include asking current city council and commission members to identify potential individuals to recruit, allowing non-resident business owners and representatives to join the EMC, reducing the number of meetings, maybe quarterly, thus reducing the time commitment, identifying existing city and neighborhood groups and reaching out to them. Those are made up of people who are committed to serving the community and might be interested in coming to the EMC. Combining the EMC with another commission to increase both membership and broaden the work plan of the EMC, and then identifying additional platforms aside from Facebook and Oakdale Update to get the information out. So I'd like to reiterate that these are just ideas, and acting in any of these would require city council direction. So with that, are there any ideas that the commission is drawn to or dislikes, and why? And are there maybe other strategies that you've thought of that could be added to this list and further explored?
Well, thank you, Hannah, for that. And the recent strategies have been more just broad-based strategies and have not been successful. So I would look to really going to the concentric circle. And, since we only have 3 members, I think it would be good to get other people also involved in helping to reach out to individuals that may have the skills that we're looking for on the commission. And I think that, we have found commission members that way in the past. I know successfully. Besides those, just we've had some come in from a broad-based approach as well. And some people knew residents that have moved in, and maybe they were on a commission in their city in the past. And I think we should definitely try to reach out to people we think have the skills to be on the commission. And the other thing here is that mentions that business owners who own a business in Oakdale are currently not allowed to be on the commission. You have to be a resident, and see St. Louis Park has non-residents allowed. And there may be another benefit to having business involved is that when we've looked at things like recycling and reducing water consumption and that, or even solar energy, that we've wanted to reach out to the businesses in Oakdale and haven't had lot of success. And maybe if having a business owner on the commission, it would give us more access. And they're thinking on how to connect with other business owners. So I think that might be another benefit. But the question is, what would we need to change as far as our bylaws and that to make that happen, where we could have non-resident but business owners in Oakdale. And the other thing is we had talked in the past about having student members. And I think that's something we still want to pursue, but probably not until school's back in session this fall. But I think that's something we have had approval of doing that from the city council in the past. So it's just something we need to search for students that would be interested. So
The National Honor Society students are requested to do a certain amount of volunteer work to keep in the Honor Society, so that might be one group you could reach out to, both at Tartan and North.
Yep, absolutely.
Historically, and I can't quite recall the way the bylaws read, but from a high school voice and lens perspective, do they have both voice and vote?
Nope, they don't have a vote.
Okay. Question about the social media piece, and I'm going to echo Chair Miller's remarks. This is fantastic to have such a baseline. We've never really had like a state of the state before, so thank you. You talk little bit about, the memo says, in terms of like likes, the two posts, what was like, kind of unpacking the engagement numbers behind them. What are we doing with the people that actually like us and or share? Is there any kind of follow-up strategy with those people?
Not to my knowledge, but that's something we can certainly explore.
Yeah. Those are pretty warm leads, I would imagine, so.
Could we see a copy of the thing that you handed out at the Summerfest?
Oh, yes, the one pager. I don't have it on me, but I can certainly
Okay.
send that via email if that's something you're interested
Yeah.
in. It was pretty basic. I had lots of colors, to catch the eye, and it just
But it explains what the commission is.
yep, explained. It had what the commission does, who can be on the commission, kind of some catchy things like help your community and give back, stuff like that. And then it had a really easy QR code that they could just,
Oh, okay.
use their phone camera to go to the application. So that kind of,
I think I could use some of those.
yeah, can definitely, got lots of copies.
We talk also about like the natural extension of our work plan and our work, and I just think of like Oakdale has so many amazing like residential awards for ecological or environmental investments, and same thing for businesses. And are we engaging with those either award finalists or award recipients differently in a way to do a soft ask for this kind of engagement? There's the survey groups from Bike and Ped, which also extends into the high school demographics. There's the business association, because everybody knows something. And in my work, the best way of getting involved is through a personal ask, right? A one-on-one. And so as I think of all the ways that people do engage with us in a more intimate, non-to-the-masses setting, non-mass marketing setting, I think of what are the natural intersections of people in our community and how are they, I don't know, getting folded into our work, and those associations or volunteer groups could be a great way to, and I know we already have a volunteer, maybe a volunteer coordinator at Oakdale a year ago,
Do we? Okay.
only with rec, okay.
Nope, that's a great idea and something that I think would be really
Yeah,
good to leverage.
even when I went to pick up our little new elm tree at the tree giveaway this year, I noticed like the U of M was here and all of our other partners beyond the tree board to make the Arbor Day giveaway happen. There's a whole other like second degree, third degree connection to Oakdale that we might not yet be tapping.
Yeah.
And the landscape alternative event might have been a way to talk to people one-to-one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, personally, I can think of a couple of people in my neighborhood that, one person who served on the commission in the past. He hasn't been on the commission for a number of years now, but can see if he's in a different place as far as, I think he may have retired so maybe he has more time to be on the commission, so, yeah. And I think that as we recruit people, I know in the past we've had, I think there were 4 people on the commission from my neighborhood at one point. And so that is something, you know, it can be a good thing, but we don't want to load up on just, you know, one group of people. And also if we can think of diversity and having some diversity, I think that also helps the strength of our commission. So I think if we could all reach out to some people that we think would be good, that would be one step that we as commissioners can take before our next meeting and see what
For sure.
we come up with some candidates there, and then the other things we talked about.
That's why I'd really like that handout.
I will get those to you.
And I guess, you know, in talking to people, people always ask, well, what's the time commitment for this? And, you know, I think, you know, we have monthly meetings, but we do not have a meeting in December because of the holidays. Generally, we also don't have one meeting in the summer due to vacations and things. It's usually one meeting is lost there. So 10 meetings a year, I don't think is unreasonable, and usually, you know, they're only an hour and a half long at most, and the preparation generally is not extensive. So, you know, I think that it's not, I think I don't think we need to reduce the meeting frequency is what I'm saying, I guess. I think it's really, I think, good to keep things updated and moving things along with a monthly meeting. And I see that all of the other cities have monthly meetings here too, very, very similar.
Yes.
Chair, may I ask one other question?
Yes.
Thank you. So on the second page of the memo, I mean, the whole thing is concentric circles, and so that's something I get intimately. You had opened up the memo opens up the question of, while those are probably the best methods for volunteer recruitment, it'll take greater commitment from staff. Can you share more about what you mean by that? Because we're all partners in this work.
Sure. Well, it just, you know, it's, you know, extra phone calls, or, you know, it's just really easy to put together a Facebook post that then just goes out. So then, you know, if we're using the targeted concentric circle strategies, I had envisioned that it might take a little bit more of a commitment. You know, you have to think more on your own time about who might be individuals to target and the skills that we want. And then if you bring those to me, then I, you know, reach out, or you've probably already reached out. So don't envision it being that much more of a time commitment, but I think it would lead to a bit more of a dedication to the, you know, continual and, you know, consistent recruitment.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, well, I think we'll try the recruitment strategy as much as we can, and because I think that's one thing we haven't done a lot of really in the past. So now I think is the time. So let's move this forward with continuing the various broad-based approaches we're using, because I think we can pick up people as they move into Oakdale that way. And also, I think, that is a good strategy as well, but I think the concentric circle recruitment is something we can pursue more vigorously. All right. So the other new business item we have this evening is the fleet electrification, and we have a report on the City of Oakdale fleet, or actually a presentation here. So I'll let you go ahead with that.
Perfect, thank you. So this evening, I'm going to present some of the preliminary high-level findings from the electric vehicle fleet assessment that was conducted by Sawatch Labs. So on the screen, you'll see just an agenda for the presentation. First, I'll discuss the purpose of fleet electrification and some of the background of Oakdale's actions to date. Then I'll go over the Sawatch Labs electric vehicle EV suitability assessment, and additionally, a case study from the town of La Crescent will be briefly presented. And then lastly, I'll lay out some of the potential next steps and then open it up to questions and feedback. So first on the agenda is to go over the purpose and background to understand why the city is pursuing fleet electrification. So by switching current gas-powered fleet vehicles to electric vehicles, the city could experience a wide range of benefits. There are the environmental benefits. Utilizing electric vehicles leads to a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and a reduction in the reliance on fossil fuels, thus creating a cleaner and more sustainable transportation system. There are the health benefits. Electric vehicles allow for improved air quality and reduction in health risks for employees and communities. Lastly, there are financial benefits. Switching from internal combustion vehicles to electric vehicles allows the city to save money by reducing fuel and maintenance costs. So how does the fleet electrification fit in with the city's broader goals? The city identified greenhouse gas reduction as a goal in its 2040 comprehensive plan. In support of this goal, the plan listed the policy of supporting private and public infrastructure that accommodates and encourages use of electric and autonomous vehicles, and exploring options for city fleet use of electric vehicles. In addition to the city's comprehensive plan, the Environmental Management Commission has also identified fleet electrification as a priority in its 2023 work plan. So together, this priority and the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan have guided the city to pursue incorporating electric vehicles into its fleet. This slide shows a brief timeline of the city's electrification efforts to date. In September of 2021, the EV Ready community study was completed. This allowed the city to prioritize EV Ready actions that will help enable the use of electric vehicles. In February of 2022, the city joined Excel's Fleet Electrification Advisory Program. In May of 2022, the city amended the city code to include EV-ready language, and it also created a EV charging infrastructure guidelines document that was posted to the city website. This resource provides residents and businesses with direction for adding charging infrastructure to their properties. And then as part of FEEP, Sawatch Labs conducted the EV suitability assessment from just the end of August, beginning of September of 2022 to December of 2022. And then in May of this year, the city joined the Great Plains Institute's EV Smart program. So this program provides assistance for becoming an EV Smart certified city. The main purpose of this presentation is to discuss the fleet analysis that was performed by Sawatch Labs. This was conducted as part of Excel's Fleet Electrification Advisory Program. Incorporating electric vehicles into the city fleet requires careful planning and infrastructure improvements. So the Fleet Electrification Advisory Program helps to accomplish this by providing municipalities with no or low-cost advisory services and data-driven assessments of EV fleet opportunities and charging infrastructure options. Excel partners with Sawatch Labs. Sawatch Labs is the one to complete the assessment of current fleet vehicles, which will be further discussed in the following slides. The city was granted awards from Excel to cover the cost of this fleet assessment. Many other cities have joined the Fleet Electrification Advisory Program and have conducted their fleet analyses through Sawatch. Cities include Bloomington, Hastings, St. Louis Park, Woodbury, and White Bear Lake. So the Sawatch Labs EV suitability analysis is a very important first step in the journey of fleet electrification. Their analysis was broken down into two main phases. First, they collect telematics data of a subset of our fleet vehicles, and they then use that data to run an analysis to inform the best EV models to replace current fleet vehicles. Once these steps were done, Sawatch took a few months to compile all the information into a brief report and database. These were made available to city staff in the spring of 2023, so this year. For the first step, the telematics data collection, Sawatch collected data for a minimum of 3 months. Telematics devices were placed in selected Oakdale vehicles, and track data included total miles traveled, total number of trips taken, average daily hours spent idling. They also collected location data, so this was addresses, average hours of dwell times, and the frequency of visiting those locations. The location data is intended to capture current driving and parking patterns, and that will help to inform potential charging locations. Because we can't analyze all of the vehicles in our fleet, we had to choose a subset. So 26 total vehicles were tracked. 14 of those were police department vehicles and 12 were non-police department vehicles. City staff worked with Sawatch Labs staff to choose the specific vehicles that made the cut for being analyzed. Those chosen were either light or medium duty vehicles and were regularly operated. So all heavy duty trucks, ambulances, fire trucks, snowplows were immediately excluded. The market is expanding for such heavy duty vehicles, but it's still fairly nascent. For all non-police department vehicles, telematics devices were installed from end of August 2022 to December 2022. The police department vehicles, on the other hand, they already possessed telematics devices, so there was no need to install new ones. Sawatch simply was granted access to the data and pulled relevant data. So they were able to pull about a year's worth of data, typically from about February 2022 to May of 2023. So using that telematics data, Sawatch was able to use their Easy EV analytics platform to score the fleet vehicles and determine whether they were suitable to be replaced with electric vehicles. The overall Easy EV score is a composite score that incorporates the energy, the economic score, parking score, and the confidence score that the data collected is representative of overall vehicle activity. The energy score helps the city easily see how many days each vehicle could do its driving without needing to charge midday. The economic score assesses the financial impact of replacing the vehicle with an EV, so that includes the purchase price and operational costs and savings. Cost of electric vehicles considered were based on the vehicle pricing available to the city. The parking score accounts for where the vehicle is parking and the feasibility for installing charging infrastructure in those locations. And the higher the Easy EV score, the better the current vehicle is suited to be replaced with an EV. If Sawatch's if Sawatch Labs determined that a vehicle was suited to be replaced with an EV, they provided the recommended vehicle. So this can be seen in the summary report and the online dashboard. But something cool that the online dashboard allows you to do is you can switch out what vehicle you're comparing and get the cost of savings and how much greenhouse gas emissions you're reducing. So the summary report is just the recommended replacement based on their analysis, but the online dashboard allows you to kind of play with that a little bit more. After Sawatch Labs finished the full assessment, they presented the results to city staff, which I'll briefly go through in the next slides. So on this slide, it shows just a snapshot of one of the individual vehicle summaries. So each vehicle in the report has its own one-page summary, and the full report is provided in your packet. It's important to mention that there are technically two different summary reports. On the first page of each report, you'll find two different client names. One is Oakdale, and that's the report for all non-police department vehicles. And then the other report client is called Oakdale 2, and that's for all of the police department vehicles. So because those department vehicles were analyzed separately, they have separate reports. So this slide shows the top half of an individual vehicle summary page. At the very top here, you can see what the fleet vehicle was, its year, make, and model. In the box to the right, you can see the observation period, so the number of days tracked, the number of trips it took, and total miles it drove during that observation period, and then as well as the temperature range. That becomes important when you're thinking about EVs. You want them to perform well, especially in Minnesota winters. Then this next big section is, they're using some assumptions, but it's the estimated operational metrics for the vehicle if you were to replace it with its recommended replacement, which can be seen right here. So this fleet vehicle was recommended to be replaced with a Chevy Silverado EV. And then these are the overall and then sub scores that Sawatch analyzed. So some of the vehicles aren't suited to be replaced with an EV. So you'll see in the report that their recommended replacement is no change. So yes, getting back to the estimated operational metrics. So assuming that the total miles driven during the observation period are pretty consistent throughout the year, this vehicle would travel about 7,600 miles in a year. And if it did so, with it being an EV, there would be a 69% greenhouse gas reduction, equating to about 94,000 pounds of greenhouse gases. And then if you were to replace the current fleet vehicle with the recommended EV, there would be an operational cost difference of about $15,000 to $18,000. And then the cost savings for the total cost of ownership, there's a cost parity with this vehicle. Other vehicles, you'll see that there's savings. So the total cost of ownership accounts for the purchase price of the vehicle, whereas the operational cost difference is just the maintenance. And then in addition to miles driven, it's also the average daily idling hours was tracked and also considered in the estimated operational metrics. So this car only idled for about a half an hour each day. You'll see that some of the police department vehicles idled for much longer. So next, this is what you would see on the bottom half of the summary report. I couldn't fit it all onto one page. You wouldn't be able to read it. So this is the bottom half. The report gives the top 5 projected charging locations. These have been redacted because some of it's sensitive information. But you'd get the address, the dwell time, so how long it's being parked at that location, the average hours, and then the frequency that car visits that location. So these parking patterns are assessed to identify optimal locations to install electric vehicle charging infrastructure. The full list of parking locations is only available in the online database. not in the summary report. That just simply shows the top 5 for, to keep it all on one page. And then the last section of the report is the cost of charging and time required to charge based on its driving patterns. So if this recommended Silverado EV replacement was to continue driving in the same way as the non-EV truck, it would not need to be charged midday, which is good news. It makes it, more able to be a daily vehicle. And then it also provides how many hours it would take to fully charge the EV if you're using level 1, level 2, or DC fast charging. So that's important to consider, depending on what sort of infrastructure we have installed. And then the last column is the daily cost of charging. That, makes assumptions of the electricity rates, but, and then another thing to highlight is that these per vehicle parking analyses are aggregated on SAWatch's dashboard, so you can get more of a holistic summary of where charging, might be good based on all the vehicles that were analyzed. So that's only available on the dashboard, not in the summary report. And like I said, it's important to note that some of the information, such as cost savings and cost of daily charging, the SAWatch uses assumptions for gas prices. So, it's not a set in stone number. There had to be assumptions that were made. While SAWatch Labs analysis provides the city with a lot of useful information, there are some limitations to the study. First, only a subset of vehicles and equipment were analyzed. At the time of analysis, the city fleet was made up of about 143 vehicles and pieces of equipment, but for this analysis, only 26 were analyzed. Therefore, there are fleet vehicles that were not analyzed but might be good candidates for EV replacement. During the selection process, SAWatch Labs and city staff tried to select cars that they felt were best suited for the analysis based on their understanding of the vehicle's use patterns. But it's important to note that there might be other vehicles in the fleet that would be good candidates. Second, technology is continually changing. The analysis can only compare fleet vehicles to current EVs on the market. Therefore, vehicles that the analysis recommended no change for, they might have a suitable EV come on the market in the future. Therefore, continuing to monitor EV market changes will be necessary. SAWatch Lab also provides a one-time option to rerun the collected data with new EV models, but that has to be done no more than 12 months after we received the initial results. So that would have to be done by about April of 2024. Third, the assessment is unable to capture whether current fleet vehicles and their attributes are best suited for the job. So the analysis simply takes the current vehicle and tries to find the best and closest EV match. So this is important to consider whether the vehicle that's currently in the use is the best fit for the job. So that could also change what EV we replace it with if that's chosen for replacement. Lastly, many of the fleet vehicles suitable for EV replacements received the same easy EV score. So how do we prioritize? SAWatch Labs didn't provide a roadmap or prioritization of where to start, so therefore it's something the city will have to determine. Do we want to switch the fleet vehicle that puts on the most annual miles? Do we want to go after ones that idle the most? Determining the city's priorities is important when moving forward. And then some of the key takeaways. Of the 26 vehicles analyzed, 19 of them were candidates for electric vehicle replacement. So we have a lot of options. 13 of the 14 police department vehicles were suitable for EV replacement. 6 of the 12 non-police department vehicles were suitable for replacement. So no shortage of options. Another key takeaway is that each EV replacement candidate has potential for total cost of ownership savings or operational cost savings, or both. Therefore, the city is expected to experience financial benefits if fleet electrification is pursued. And then lastly, a closer look into potential charging infrastructure locations is needed. While you're unable to see the locations because they've been redacted, the addresses aren't always the most useful due to, the trip took a one-time the car took a one-time trip out of town, or some of the addresses are private residents that just aren't, suitable for charging infrastructure. Okay, moving on to just a quick case study, because it's important to understand how other cities have conducted fleet electrification. The city of La Crescent also took part in Excel's Fleet Electrification Advisory Program. Sawatch Labs conducted their EV suitability assessment about a year prior to Oakdale's. La Crescent used the study and other resources to understand why and how an EV purchase would benefit the city, and subsequently identify which of their fleet vehicles should be replaced and what EV they should be replaced with. La Crescent City staff member identified two big challenges with this fleet electrification process. First, when they were looking to purchase an EV, there was a significant supply chain issue. Some of that might be resolved now, but they struggled to find available inventory, so that's something that we might also experience. Second, staff buy-in was a challenge. Getting staff affected by the change, getting them to understand the purpose and the benefits, that takes time. So continuing to build relationships across departments so that we can all be on the same page is beneficial and something that La Crescent identified as a challenge. The outcome of La Crescent's fleet assessment was that they decided to lease a Model Y Tesla for their police department. The biggest reason for choosing to lease was that they were utilizing Infrastructure Investment and Job Acts funds. So I think there were some limitations on how to use that. And then additionally, leasing, you've lowered the upfront cost barrier. But their plan is to buy the vehicle at the end of the lease period. The next steps. Considering all this information, city staff have identified a small list of potential next steps. This will help to keep the momentum going. First, these findings will be presented to City Council so that we can obtain input on potential action items, such as exploring and budgeting for EV purchase options as part of the capital improvement plan process, considering a pilot program for a small subset of vehicles, monitoring changes in technology and market availability, considering charging infrastructure types and locations, looking for grant opportunities, and then also determining available technical assistance programs. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions, feedbacks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, had a couple questions here as you went through. Well, one comment as well is that I think another benefit besides the environmental health and financial is the city setting a good example for residents by going to electric vehicles. And makes it more mainstream for people to consider that as a choice, knowing that the city has probably done their homework to evaluate it. And, and as I looked through some of the details of the report, it looked like the Chevrolet Equinox was recommended for quite a few vehicles, and that's coming out in the 2024 model. And I know I've been looking forward to taking a look at that when it comes out. And so it made me think, wow, they're recommending that, so maybe I really do need to take a good look at it. I think there's that part of it. And I'm wondering about hours idled. There's a reason with the internal combustion engine for like certain vehicles to remain idling, and I realize there probably is in the winter for vehicles to remain idling as well. But I'm wondering if that's something that, could there be a change with electric vehicles that they wouldn't need to idle because it's pretty much instant on, and I don't know, just a question I had.
Yeah, I don't have the answer, but I can certainly look into, more information about idling and you know, initiate conversations with the other departments about the reasons and if there's room to explore something else if we get, an EV to replace one of their fleet vehicles with.
Yeah. And I know with some electric vehicles, in the winter, you can have the heat on without have other equipment in there, so you use less energy, so you're not needing to charge as much. Yeah, I think those were the main questions I had. If there are other questions, please go ahead, commissioners.
Yeah, just a comment and a question. So it would be interesting to see, you said the opportunity to reassess within a 12-month period. It would be interesting to see what winter would do to any of these numbers. I think that might be kind of what you're speaking to, but just as a comment, as an aside. And then on, I don't know what page this is, I'm sorry, 30-something. On the recommended replacement, the suitability assessment, the first page of I don't know where it was, but when we recommended the Silverado, the EV work truck, is an EV work truck? Because you also said, was it how many out of the PD? 13 out of the 14? Wow. Is that like a CSO truck, or what function does that serve?
The one that wasn't selected for EV replacement was a transit van. I think that would be the CSO.
The CSO, okay.
I'm wondering whether hybrid vehicles should ever factor into this thought process.
Absolutely. And in the Sawatch Labs dashboard, there are, when you can switch what car you're looking at, there's battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid. So that could be explored more.
Do we have to have a password or something to get into that?
I think for now, just city staff has access to that, and I think that will remain that way, that we'll just, only a few of us, Andy, Max, and I have logins to that dashboard.
I guess one question would be if the city would consider leasing versus purchase and look at that option to, as the Crescent, to lower the upfront costs, because I think that's, looking at budgets, it might be able to get more of these vehicles leased as a option versus purchasing. And also to spread out the cost over a period of time. And it would also potentially, resolve the question of technology changing. And that after a 3-year lease period, you could, rather than purchase it at the end, you could maybe purchase the next, or lease the next model that has come out that maybe have more benefits.
Question,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did La Crescent say anything more about staff buy-in in terms of a potential barrier, or what that felt like?
No, the La Crescent staff member presented at the Great Plains Institute EV Smart. It's a little cohort, and we meet monthly, and he presented on it, and he didn't elaborate too much, just that it was a barrier, but didn't provide any advice for how to overcome that barrier.
Sure.
But, I've got his contact information. That's certainly something I can reach out to him and have more of a one-on-one conversation about that.
Yeah, I just feel that with, at least with Oakdale, what we've heard is that there's been so many cross-functional conversations, at least getting to this point with the study, so.
Right, it sounds like there's been a lot of interdepartment collaboration, so I think, you know, maybe that's not something that they had, La Crescent had, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess one other thing was, in the key takeaways, one was closer look into the potential charging infrastructure locations. And I know if we could identify some, there currently are incentives to install those through different programs. And so it would be nice to, if to identify locations, you know, as soon as possible, if we could, through this program. Then we could enter some of those programs, or enter a program to you know, do it at a lower cost for the city. And, oh, I guess a question related to that with the vehicles, did they, when they factored in the total cost of operation and the total cost of the vehicle, did that include the current incentives for, like, the Chevrolet and that?
Not to my knowledge,
Okay,
but that is a question I can ask Sawatch Labs to confirm, but I wasn't there when they initially presented the information to staff, and I wasn't there when they, were running the analysis, but, I've got the contact information, and that's an easy question that they could clarify for us.
okay,
But to my knowledge, no.
okay. It's possible that savings could even be greater. Yeah, I guess the next steps, I think, all look good for moving forward with this. You know, looking at options, purchase options as part of the capital improvement plan, and then perhaps considering a pilot program to get some experience and some, I guess, comfort with this approach for the city, and then also to, I think I like considering the charging infrastructure types and locations as part of this, and of course the grant opportunities. I know there's a lot out for both charging stations and for vehicles, so yeah, that looks good. And I think, the technical assistance programs, I think since we're working with Great Plains Institute on EV Smart, that they're a great help for getting technical assistance. And if they don't have it, they can recommend others that do. So I really like that we're in that program. Any other questions or feedback on this? Well, I'm really happy to get the results of this, and I think with this report and that, and the steps to move this forward, the next steps, we're getting closer to having some fleet electrification here. So that's great. So I think that's the end of the business section of our program, our meeting this evening. And we have our review of the monthly editorial calendar, our communications program, where we identify communications opportunities in certain areas. And so we'll move on to that editorial calendar. And do we have that here?
Yes. So just to recap, the social media communications that have gone out since the last meeting in May. There have been 4 Facebook posts promoting environmental initiatives since I started at the end of May. On June 4th, there was a post about renewable energy opportunities such as Xcel Energy's Solar Rewards Program. On June 28th, there was a post promoting the giveaway of compost pails at the farmers market. So I was out there the whole farmers market, and it was quite a successful day. I think about 30 people took compost pails, and few of them mentioned seeing the Facebook post, and that's what prompted them to come out. On July 6th, there was a post about residents submitting pictures of themselves biking and walking. So this is in support of the Bike and Ped Plan, just to make it a little bit more personal to Oakdale and have pictures of actual residents on the trails. And then lastly, it was yesterday, there was a post regarding plastic bag and film recycling locations in Oakdale and where you can bring your plastic bags and other plastic films to recycle. So that was something that went out yesterday, and in support of Plastic-Free July. And then in August, we've got water conservation slated to be promoted. So I will continue to work with Sarah in communications for getting some posts about water conservation. I know on the editorial calendar, we had identified maybe coordinating a guest presentation for the August meeting. So we'll see if maybe in the next week I can contact someone so that they have enough time to maybe get that on their calendar, and we can see if we can have someone from a water conservation district or a water management organization come in and give a little educational presentation about water conservation.
That would be great if you could reach out to the watershed district. I think the Ramsey, Washington County Watershed District, we've had them in the past. Well, we've had all 3 in different times, but they are cover most of Oakdale, the largest part. So maybe that would be a good one to bring in. But all 3, any of the 3 would be acceptable. Any comments on the editorial calendar?
No, are we going to get another little printout like we had in
Yeah,
the
is there a way to
past?
see?
I can do that, yes.
It was really helpful.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move along to the commissioner updates. Are there any commissioner updates you'd like to talk about?
For me, I went in, boy, what month was that? May? I went to the commission conference at Ridgedale, and it was it was bigger, I think, than the previous year I went. And I would say we even extended the footprint to Hastings, and St. Cloud came down to do a lovely presentation on solar, energy, water. It was really comprehensive, so it was great. It's always great to network, and I had a follow-up conversation with John from Conservation Minnesota, because apparently I said something about all the great things that we're doing in Oakdale, and he's like, I want to learn more. So he learned more, but it was fun to network, and people are watching what we're doing. I will say this across the county area. I think it's rare for other commissions with staff support to have a work plan that's aligned with a comp plan that's aligned with a bunch of other things that we're doing. So people are like, how did you do that? And we're like, well, staff. But anyway, it was great to go and great to meet new people and hear all the musings about the challenges of single-use bags in Edina, for instance, or things like that. So it was fun.
Great.
It's my big update. And we planted our tree.
Well, thank you for attending that. That's great.
I'd just like to mention that the Age-Friendly Oakdale has moved forward with their plan to study transportation. And so there's 2 community conversations occurring this month. July 24th at the Discovery Center at 1:30, and July 26th at 2 p.m. at the Peaceful Lodge down on Hudson Road, which overlooks the new Gold Line area. Both of these conversations will be led by our consultant, Bico and Associates. And so these will be an hour-long community conversations to explore what people really want in the way of local transportation, specifically how to get around Oakdale and how to connect to the Gold Line and how to stay at home and not have to go into a residence, and they want to stay at home, so this will be a way to connect them to other things. So we're doing these community conversations, and we're really hoping that people come. We're giving out $10 gift cards as an incentive, and we're providing treats. But most importantly, it will really help with Oakdale's, actually, their 2040 plan. Goal 5 includes further analyze transit service needs for transit dependent based upon the 2017 transit needs study. In other words, this activity, which is organized by Age Friendly Oakdale, is right within the 2040 plan. So if you have any idea that you might want to go, there's a poster.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, and now we have our council liaison update, and we are pleasure of having our Mayor Zabel.
Well, thank you, commissioners. Happy to be here. It has been a very busy summer thus far around town. So everything from Summerfest and street projects and the city events, the farmers markets, all that stuff. Our movie in the park series and concert in the park series are taking place this week, and then everything we see with development. So there's a lot happening around town. We know some of it is not always convenient for our residents, especially those street projects. So we are grateful for the patience we get from everybody, but the work continues. It needs to be done, and they're making good progress on it. That's the one blessing we get from the dry weather is projects like that stay on schedule. So if it has to be dry, we at least get something out of it. The 2024 budget work is continuing. We are getting closer by the day to our September deadline for setting the preliminary levy. So the city council has been working a lot with city staff on reviewing the 2024 budget. Early conversations about those budget changes for next year really focus on inflationary changes, just those increased cost drivers that every city and business and family are facing, as well as some personnel additions, primarily in public safety. So those will be some of the bigger changes we're looking at for 2024. But the work continues, and we have to give a lot of credit to our city staff for all of their hard work in pulling all that information together. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me. I see you thinking, Bonnie. What are you thinking?
Well, I know that you supported Oakdale Wellness 50 Plus by hosting a line dancing event at the right over here in the park, and it was very successful. So we appreciate, we Oakdale seniors appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Those types of events are a great way to engage with, different pockets of our residence base. So even the ones you mentioned about age friendly, if you can get the information over to me, I'll help promote it as well. And, it never hurts to get it out to as many people as possible. So those are good events. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, we're at the end of our meeting here, and I'd like to mention that our next regular Environmental Management Commission meeting will be held on August 21st at 7 p.m. in these council chambers. So unless you have anything to add, commissioners, I'd look for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved. You can have it.
All right, I move we adjourn.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning our July 17th, 2023 meeting of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.